4 hours difference, but actually it's not 4 hours, it's 18 hours. So there was one year I went to Hawaii for Christmas. But then I couldn't afford the ticket for Christmas, like on the Christmas day. So went prior to Christmas. So we went there in the afternoon and arrived on the same day in the morning. We went there in the afternoon and arrived on the same day. And then on the returning day, we flew. The plane took off on the Friday, on the 24th of the December, and when we arrived Sydney, now it was 26th of December. So I never had a 25th of December that day, which was fascinating. Oh, we're live. Hello.
Unmuted myself, and now we are full unmute. Perfect. I still can't manage to click that unmute button at the time. So, hello, welcome to the show, people. We have an incredible guest today, Mariana De La Roche, who works at IOTA and INATBA. So, Mariana, who are you?
Awesome.
And what do you do? Let's start right away, because I have so many questions.
Well, thank you for the invite. Do you want me to talk a little bit about the background, or basically what is my role now?
Whatever feels you comfortable talking about.
Okay, so like my background is in law. I did a specialization in human rights and humanitarian law, and I have a master's degree in public administration that I did in Germany. And basically I was working for the development sector back then, and I was really interested in the intersection between technology and human rights, or how can we use technology to better guarantee human rights, especially for vulnerable populations. And that's how I came to the blockchain sector.
Oh.
So the IOTA Foundation was looking for a social impact project manager, and I started in that position back in 2018. And back then, my role was basically to support the implementation of projects that the IOTA Foundation had with different stakeholders, among them the European Union institutions. The European Commission, for example, has a lot of funds and grants that they give to foundations to implement pilots.
Yep.
Or develop like proof of concepts. And we also have like projects with the Canadian government, the Japanese government, the German government, and so on. And after that, I became the lead project manager. So I was leading a team of over 5 or 6 people, and we were implementing like more than 15 projects. And due to refocus of the foundation right now, because we can basically not be the ones that are like building technology, doing all the research, doing all the deploy of the protocol, and also building, we change focus. And now what we want to do is like focus on the development of the technology and creating an environment that enhance the technology itself for the community member to build. So what I'm doing right now is working more on the regulatory side of view.
Yep.
To actually like support regulatory bodies in understanding what is the potential of the technology, but also how regulation can impact the innovators that are creating the technology. And within NATFA is the International Association for Trusted Blockchain Applications. And basically, as the name says, it's an association of different stakeholders. So we have public sector, private sector, governmental institutions, journalists, academia. So everyone is there. And we have 6 working groups, an academic advisory board, and a governmental advisory board. So the governmental advisory board and the academic advisory board are more like support bodies that help us deploy certain actions, or for example, when we write a paper, that we actually like check with like the academics that like we did it properly, that we have a foundation for saying X, Y, Z. And the group that I co-lead is the Social Impact and Sustainability Working Group, which works with the use cases that goes in that direction.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so rare. Like, just from the intro, there's so much to unpack.
I know I have a lot of questions, and then you know what? Like you are not the first one we have on our chat on our podcast that's on the law degree. So yeah, I'm surprised that so many people who's in the law degree that turn into the blockchain, as a lot of people think the blockchain or the crypto is pretty shady. It's about the money laundering, it's about doing illegal stuff, but actually it's not. So
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I always said that like technology is a tool, and as a tool, you can use it for good and bad. And it doesn't mean that there is not like money laundering also with the traditional markets, so
Yeah.
or like finance market. So it's actually what do we want to do with the technology, and how we can actually like go in the right or the wrong direction. And I guess with like blockchain and crypto, we actually have the potential to have like more transparency in that regard. We just need to organize ourselves and like actually like define how we're going to do it. And I'm not against regulation. I'm all in for regulation,
Yeah.
and not just because I'm a
yeah,
lawyer, but also because I think that it brings more kind of like order and transparency in how we can do things. And regulation also will clean the space from some of
Yeah.
those shitty actors that we have seen since the beginning. So I guess that like I see more an opportunity in regulation. What is important for me is that when regulation is negotiated, they talk to the people that is working on the sector, so they know for whom are they regulating.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. We were at two events, two same events, the Cardano Summit and the NBX Next Block Expo in Berlin.
Yes.
And in Berlin, I talked to another lawyer that was from Ukraine, and I was like, oh, so it must be really hard to do your like to be in the regulatory space in blockchains because, well, by nature the tech is global, but the laws are national, and so there's that, how to say it, like sometimes conflicting even types of bodies of law, or like where do you apply, or to which country do you apply, or which laws of which country do you apply it. And she was like, yeah, it's such a mess that I'm doing everything that is non-US, because apparently, like, and we had like a US lawyer on the show before, and he was like, yeah, so US is a special case in a sense.
US is always a special case.
And so how does it work? Because like, as you said, like you work with many governments or at the institutional level. How does this work? Do you have a clear ground, for instance, on which you can base? I don't know if you do recommendations or consultations on that, but do you have like a clear ground, or is it more like, hey, so here's our body of law, and this is your sector, and now your job is apply it or try and find what matches?
So just one thing that I would like to clarify, this is not something that like happens just to the blockchain sector. Like
Yeah.
every time that you have like interactions between different governments, or like regions, especially, you will have those things. So if you think in supply chain, like you will need to walk through like different regulations and different like basically laws every time that you just want to cross a border. With the European Union, we have like the advantage that we have the union itself, and now, for example, with MiCAR, if you have the license in one country for like being a CASP, you will have it for all European countries, which actually is a really good thing for CASP in Europe. I do not work on like the part of just like this is the law, apply it. I do more actually well, as I see it, is like more like the education part, and actually like enhancing this environment of communication between the industry and the policymakers for future legislation. So one thing that we have been doing is we noticed that there is a lot of interest in knowing what is going on at the regulatory side from the industry, from our community members at IOTA. So we created a series of events called Let's Talk About Regulation, and it's happening once a month, when we bring experts from different jurisdictions, different topics, to explain to the community what are the implications of certain pieces of legislation, or how in the future there's going to be a piece of legislation that can impact them. So we host one session on MiCAR, we host one on NFTs. So what is going on with NFTs? Are they inside or not on MiCAR? And what will potentially happen with a level 2 legislation or a new legislation in specifically NFTs. And this is really good for the community members because I'm not telling them like this is what it is and this is what you should do, but it's like this is what is out there and these are like all the possibilities, and then they have to do their own research and talk to people and actually decide what is the best direction for them. And we also have like some private events that we are organizing between policymakers in the European institutions and community members. So we pick a topic. It can be AML and unhosted wallets, self-hosted wallets. Like I changed the name so many times. Or also what is going on with the NFTs, or how we can tokenize traditional assets such as the land, and how this can create financial inclusion. And is community members explaining to policymakers all the different things that you can do with the technology in that particular area, and how they see regulation, and where do they think regulation can help them to do a better job. So basically that's most what I'm doing, like actually like put them together and for them to speak, and actually like sometimes playing devil advocates and making the hard questions to both sides, so they start considering in which direction they should go forward.
So your main task, if I paraphrase you, is to foster the dialogue between these entities, so that
I will say yes.
So that you get like a grounded point of view, not a grounded, a rounded point of view, where everyone can sit at the table and discuss those.
I would say yes. That's a good way to put it. The other thing that I've been working really hard lately is actually in showcasing the potential of blockchain for good. So basically, because of INATPA and also like the main mission of IOTA, which is digital autonomy for everyone. Like I've been working a lot in showcasing community projects, not only from IOTA, but actually like more cross protocols, and also like to try to just like be able to cooperate, because like it's better to cooperate than compete with each other and reinvent the wheel all the time. So I've been just presenting different, like for example in the Cardano Summit, if you were in my talk, like I was talking about like different use cases for financial inclusion, climate monitoring, and the transparency in the supply chain. So how can we just like use these use cases to achieve the sustainable development goals, the 2030 agenda, and push forward the Green Deal? So all of these use cases are also like a really good key to open the door to talk about policymakers, because I think that like it's a lot of misconceptions in the blockchain sector, and among them is like this confusion between blockchain and crypto, and everything that comes with that. So actually how you can approach policymakers with like, well, you have an agenda, you have the EU working plan for digitalization of the energy sector in Europe, you have the Green Deal, how we can work together to use this technology to actually push forward those agendas.
Awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
Channing, do you want to go, or should I keep firing away?
One question before we go to pretty deep, but it's not an easy question, I suppose. Is IOTA a blockchain or not a blockchain? Because I've studied last year and it says it's not a blockchain, it's a DAG. So can you put your, like using your as simple as possible for our audience?
Well, I will do it as simple as possible as well, because I'm not a technical person. So if you want the whole, how it works, the consensus mechanism, I can put in contact with one of our researchers that can do an amazing job in explaining you that.
So let's do it on the surface level.
The main difference is that you have like different consensus mechanisms, and you have like different, just like we're like this, you have proof of work, you have proof of stake, and you have like all that comes with that, right? But like on top of that, we have like the DAG, which is not a blockchain itself, because we don't have like a block of transactions. That's like, I think, the main difference. So with like proof of work, proof of stake, you have like these blocks where you have like the different transactions inside the block. And the main difference with the DAG is that you have individual transactions, and each transaction is approved too. So this is actually really good for like two things, as I see it. The first one is the energy consumption, because the energy consumption was way lower with that. So you saw how it changed from proof of work to proof of stake with Ethereum, right? Like with the merge, it reduced like 99.98% of their energy consumption. But it's still between proof of stake, like the energy consumption is way different depending on the number of nodes you have on the network, also like the kind of hardware that you can use. And if you compare to that to the DAG, like the energy consumption is way lower. We have a report that we published. I can share with you if you want to add it to a link here about the energy consumption of IOTA, and it's crazy low. So that's the first thing, which I think that is also really good because it helps us to just like demystify this energy topic of the blockchain sector, showcasing that there is protocols that are more energy efficient, which for social impact projects and climate projects makes more sense to actually implement with these kind of protocols, because like why would you do it with a protocol that consumes a lot of energy? And the second one is about how easy it is to scale, because the fact that you don't have blocks that need to be approved, but it's individual transactions that approve themselves, just make the whole process faster when you need to approve the transactions. So this allows you to scale projects. So if we are talking about like, I don't know, you want to implement a project with the United Nations, you will have like millions of users, right? And you cannot like be waiting 1 or 2 minutes until the transaction gets approved. So as faster you can get approved, faster the project can scale, more people you can reach with the project, and then actually the impact grows. Because when you want to generate social impact, you don't need to do like focalize. Like actually what you need to do is like global scale. So you can like reach out to more people, and you need a technology that can just like follow that speed. So the DAG allows you to do that.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
So DAG, by the way, is direct acrylic graph, if I remember my acronyms correctly. And so it's just another cool mathematical trick, but let's not go too deep into the math because I can't explain it.
Direct acyclical graph, and it's just basically because it goes in one direction.
Yeah. So, do you mind if we talk about social impact?
No.
Perfect. So, what is the biggest challenge that you see around using that technology for social impact, and what kind of success also can you share? Because it's something that I kind of dislike is when we do news and stuff, it's always focused on the bad events, Oh, there's a tsunami over there. Oh, there's millions of people lost their job and stuff like that. But we never like share the ongoing successes as well. And so it's like the two sides of the coin. Like, what's the hard part of social impact, and what's the good or success part of social impact?
Okay, so I think the hard part for me will be two things. The first one is I think a matter of education, because blockchain projects cannot do everything themselves, right? So you need to cooperate with others. You have already NGOs and foundations that are working on certain topics, let's say financial inclusion, and you need to work with them if you actually want to have an impact, right? They probably already have users. They probably already have like certain reputation on the regions or like the communities that are working, because they have been deploying the projects there since forever. So it makes more sense that we cooperate with them and just like try to just like help them to do what they're doing faster and efficient and effective, rather than us creating a whole new project and everything to just like deploy there. Of course, there are projects that are like doing that, and I actually like my honest respect, because I know how hard it is to work in the development sector, because I did that in the past for a long time. But I think that is like, there's a really big gap right now in educating people outside of the blockchain bubble. So when we talk among us and you talk about like consensus mechanism and you talk about like how blockchain work and the good and the bad, well, we all are in the same sector, so we understand each other. But try to explain to my mom, which I have been explaining a lot of times, like what blockchain is, what we can do, and she's like grasping it now, but like it's still a lot of like work and constant work that you need to do, and it's a lot of effort, but like we need to do it, because if we don't do it, like waiting for them to see the potential of blockchain to actually get interested and come to us and say like, okay, now I want to know, will take longer than if we proactively start to do that and approach other organizations. So that's one of the things that like I see really important that we need to do, and we have been doing it within ADVA and IOTA as well.
Yeah.
And then the second one, of course, I guess is not only for the social impact, but for the blockchain sector in general, is the interoperability among different protocols. So it's not only the interoperability between the protocols, but actually between the organizations, how we can work together, how we can advocate from the same things together. So
have a unified voice, for instance.
Exactly. So you saw, I'm from IOTA, but like I was at the Cardano Summit, and I talk to them like quite often lately because they're also part of INADPA, and it's how we find common points that are interesting for both of us that we can just like go and together as one voice, especially at the regulatory part, because it is different. And that's one of the things that INADPA has been doing a lot, and it's just like consolidating the voices of different protocols and organizations and do the recommendations. For MiCAR was like that. So INADPA presented a big list of recommendations to MiCAR, and most of them were incorporated in the final version. You can imagine how was that before. So it's like how we present a joint effort for the policymakers, and it's not like us doing lobby alone on like pushing in different directions, but like this is one sector. If it goes in this direction, it's good for all of us.
Yeah.
But also, of course, at the technology level, we need to enhance interoperability in a way or another. Because if we have like similar projects and they're working on silos, so if we manage to connect them, like the impact that we can generate is higher. The good thing about social impact, I guess, as I mentioned before, it's just like it's an open door to talk to policymakers that are more willing to talk to you if you can show them the bright side of the technology. Good thing as well for me is just like the personal satisfaction that you know that you're doing something good, which is like basically what I'm passionate about and what I like to do in the sector. And as well, I guess that it helps you to bring the blockchain bubble inside the bubble, or like expand the bubble, I guess.
Yeah,
because you can start to cooperate with more organizations. The UN has like been really active. Like it doesn't seem like, I don't think that they do like a really good job on like advertising what they're doing, but they have a lot of projects that are using blockchain right now. So
I knew only of one. Awesome.
World Food Program has like even an accelerator, like a blockchain accelerator, where they're like scoping projects all the time for financial inclusion. And agriculture, I think that they work also a lot. Then you have building blocks with the UNHCR, which is cooperating right now with Cardano. Within ADPA, we have been we just joined within ADPA and IOTA, actually both of them just joined an initiative called Blockchain 100 Plus. That is an initiative that is like actually supported by the General Assembly of the United Nations to try to advocate for blockchain for good. So there's a lot of going on, which is a good symptom of the trust they have in the technology and the use cases that are out there already.
Yeah. I must train my newsfeed algorithm to show me those cases, because like they don't show it, they don't appear.
They are quite active actually in comms. Like I say, and I'm regretting, like, but you need to follow them, because like I've been following what they're doing, so I just like get the news all the time and I see how much they're doing. I remember in 2018 when I just started with IOTA, we were invited to a conference in New York. It was December or something. I remember there was a snow, and it was with UNICEF. And actually, they were like talking about like blockchain, the potential of blockchain for some of the use cases that they have. So they have been exploring how to use the technology for some of the use cases they have for quite a long time.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for bringing the good news.
It seems like one way or another, the government has to adapt the blockchain technology, right? It seems like. And you said once you showed them the bright side, that they are getting excited and they like it. What are the key bright sides that you showed them that makes them very interested in?
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking is because, I'm sorry. The reason I'm asking is because I know I'm a Chinese background, and I know that they are adapting blockchain technology, but then they are not using decentralized technology, blockchain. They are building their own blockchain that's within China, that's having the centralized validators to try to control the data. So to them, transparency or everything is open to public is a dangerous thing. So that's the reason I ask you, what's your government's approach to that?
Yeah, again, the technology is just a tool. I am not so familiar as how China is doing it, but like, of course, if it's centralized, like the triangle of like the blockchain thing. So you have like transparency,
Yeah.
the decentralization, and then the scalability of the technology. And barely no one has been able to just like put the three together, right? But we, for example, at IOTA, we are like working and doing a lot of research for the decentralization part because we still have the coordinator, but we're working really hard on actually like removing the coordinator and be completely decentralized. But I guess that like that's one of the key things because centralization means you are vulnerable somehow. Look what happened with FTI. Just not to go more onto that, like I think that that's a big call to action for like DeFi might be a solution to avoid these things, right? So at the end, how I see it is just like the transparency part is really interesting because like we want to know what is going on out there. And blockchain allows to do that. I just think that there's like, it might be a better way to do it, for example, with the wallet. So you don't put AML strict rules that come from the traditional financial sector to the blockchain sector, but actually how we can enhance AML in a way that is secure, that we can trust, that is not using for financing terrorism or like child pornography or gangs, but like actually how we can do it in a way that is actually for the blockchain sector, because it's not the same. They're like different sectors. So we need to stop thinking that we can copy and paste the regulation and it's going to work, because it will not. So how we can actually like do it and talk to them, to the innovators, actually, they might have a solution. So we have been talking to them about like how wallets, for example, can just like also not only storage tokens, but like actually can store your like ID credentials. And with that, you can do one-time validation of who you are. So you don't need to be doing AML with every transaction, but like just one time with your wallet. I'm not a technical person, but like that sounds awesome to me. It's just like that's a really good solution. Let's explore more that, how we do it, how we enhance it. Because this is not the direction that the whole sector is going, but like I know that with Firefly, our IOTA wallet, we are exploring those options. So I think that is great.
Yeah.
Especially when you're thinking like how the IDs can support, for example, migration. So people don't spend 2 years with their life frozen in a center trying to prove who they are and what they study and the whole, I don't know, like health history, but they just like have in their wallet all the information is like, this is who I am. These are all my certificates. Bye-bye. I will continue with my life. Instead of just like being there after all the trauma of migrating, probably with like, running away from a crisis and then 2 years stuck, how we have seen in the US sometimes. That's one thing that goes in the transparency, and then I lost myself in ideas, which apparently is one of my favorite topics. But then the other thing is also like decentralization, which I see, like as I see it, like this was like when blockchain started, was just like this anarchist movement to try to give back the power to people of their own data and their own finances, making him like finances autonomous, like if you wanted to put it like this. So how actually we use blockchain to just like, that is their people, like actually enhance democracy, how I see it with for example, with the DAOs and all the voting systems, is just like I can participate directly in the decisions that are going to impact me. And that's something that like I have not seen anything with that potential to just like actually go back to direct democracy, as the Greeks used to call it. So I see a lot of potential on that. What concerns me is that as there is a good side, there is always a bad side. And I'm concerned, for example, when you were mentioning how China works, or like the blockchain there works, is that like decentralization and control can just provide more like control over the governments, over the peoples and the rights, and that I don't think that is going in the right direction. CDBCs, for example, have a lot of potential, but like I'm concerned about the implications of surveillance over the people that the government, if it's not a democratic government, can push forward. So that's an honest concern, and I think that like that's something that us working on the space need to put a lot of attention and be always aware of what is going on. So, because things not always that sound that good are going in that direction. So, just like be alert to those red flags. For example, like if China is saying that is going to, or like a non-democratic government, just not to talk about China, wants to implement CDBCs, I will just like take a look of like what are the conditions behind, how it's going to work, and all those small details that can impact democracy and freedom, especially.
Yep, awesome. Thank you very much for your answer. You touched briefly on this, but what do you have misconceptions, or what are the misconceptions about your job and the blockchain industry, or your job in the blockchain industry? Or you have maybe no misconceptions because you're such an awesome educator, like you just you just left kick everyone.
Slap them with the fact.
Yeah.
I guess it's not only for IOTA, like, but I think that it's easy to talk about the sector. Misconceptions, of course, is in terms of like the energy consumption of the protocols. I think that that's one of the biggest one, and that I have seen in the media more often. And it's just like, wow, like no, blockchain use a lot of energy, and it's just like three things to consider. There is just like not all protocols are the same. So which you say like blockchain consumes a lot of energy is like, are we talking about what? Like, are we talking about like Bitcoin? Are we talking about
Mining,
Ethereum? Are we talking about IOTA? Yeah, what are the conditions? And it's not only about the consensus mechanism behind, but like which kind of hardware you can deploy the nodes. Like we can use a Raspberry Pi. Like really show me the energy consumption there. That's one. The second one topic there is just like, what is the trade-off? Because we use energy all the time. We're using energy right now. So using energy is not a bad thing, but actually it's like, what are we doing with the energy? Are we just like making rich people to get more money? Or are we actually like doing supporting refugees in getting an easy integration when they arrive to a new country? Like what are we doing with the energy? And then I guess the third one is like, with what are we comparing when we say that there's a lot of energy? I saw a report, forgot the name of the foundation, but I can also like share the link later on if you want to share.
Oh yes, please.
They were talking about the energy consumption of the traditional financial system, and it was just like 140 kW per hour, like hours per year, which is, if I'm not wrong, like 4 or 5 times what Bitcoin is using. So it's just like, what are we comparing with when we say that there is like a lot of consumption here? Because like it sounds more like a marketing argument in a bad way. So it's just like more, I guess like the most important thing is like to be curious. And when you hear like those statements, it's just like, where this statement is coming from, who is it doing it, what is the intention behind the statement, and is the statement actually real? So I'm not saying that like there's not protocols that like consume energy. They are. There are some that consume more than others, but these are like different criteria that we need to consider when we make those statements. Especially which protocol are we talking about, but actually with what are we comparing when we say too much? When you say like comparison, like is one time the energy consumption, the yearly energy consumption of Norway, that I think that has been the comparison. Well, of course that sounds huge, but like, is the financial market not doing the same and even 4 times worse? And there's not like even like a inclusion part of there. It's just like, what are you doing with that technology? The financial market, we know what it's doing, but what is actually like the use cases in blockchain doing to consume that energy? And one point that I forgot that is really important is like, which type of energy are you using? Because if you are using renewable energies, well, what's the issue? Well, the thing is that we don't have the infrastructure, sadly, but like that's a responsibility of the governments to actually put more effort in creating the infrastructure we need so we can actually do the transition to a more sustainable energies. That will be like my main misconception that I have seen right now. But the also like this, like I think this is important as well and has been there since forever. And is when people talk about like crypto and blockchain, they think that they're talking about the same thing in some cases, and they're completely different. One depends on the other, but you can also have like use cases in blockchain that are not really using crypto.
Well, so decentralized ID is not a financial use in a sense.
Yeah, and there are like many
Or voting?
projects, especially with like IOTA. You have like our technology is really particular, and I'm really happy about it because it like allows you, like allow us to just like go in different directions. So we can do data transactions that don't have value transactions. And that's really good for certain use cases because if you need to transfer like insane amount of data and really fast, why do you need to attach a token to that, right?
Yeah.
So ideally, you will have the token because like that also supports the foundation itself and like that technically it helps the market to stay up. Quote me on that one.
Yeah, and validating too.
But like if you have like only data transactions for certain use cases, that is a really big plus.
Yeah.
So I guess that like this misconception there is like one of the key things that we need to keep like advocating for people to understand what it is and what are the difference between them. Um, I think you asked me about like a good use case, and I
Yeah.
just remember one talking about like this like difference between like the data transactions, um, and is Energy NIP, which is a project that is actually working with the government in the Netherlands,
Okay.
and they are working with vouchers. So
Okay.
the whole idea of community currencies or community vouchers. So
Ooh, like local
basically,
currencies and stuff.
yeah. So this is really cool project because basically what they did is that they are supporting the government in the Netherlands to understand the behavior in terms of energy consumption in certain municipalities. So what they're doing is that they create a super easy survey. You have like one-time signature that comes to your home in those municipalities. You sign, and let's say that you're a family of four. Well, like you sign, but like you can only answer once to actually like see the like get information from the house and not from the individual.
Yep.
And they're like easy questions about like do you close your curtains in the night? And then they explain why, because this helps you to save like energy, because blah 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 blah. So you have like all the information of why are you getting this question, and once you answer the questions, then you get a reward, and this reward can then later on be exchanged in like the local market in certain stores to buy hardware to make your house more energy efficient, for example.
Oh.
So this is a really interesting use case. They scaled not long ago, and they were used as well for like the municipalities in the Netherlands to distribute um, relief money to families that were heavily impacted by the energy prices with the oil prices that we have. But this is really cool use case because you not only have like the government collecting information. Of course, this goes into the blockchain, so they don't know who or what or where, nothing. They just get the information and the area in general,
Yeah.
because of course they need to
It's
understand
like
how the
anonymized.
municipalities work. Exactly, and it's in the blockchain, so you can be sure that they won't have your name and know how much are you using or
Yeah.
like what is going on there. And this information is used by the government to actually like assess where do they need to work better in, like, for example, infrastructure for renewable energies. So that's from the government. From the local market is awesome because you get new clients, new customers. You are actually activating the local economy. And from the user perspective that is completing the service, well, the the process of completing the service is really easy with a survey. You just like complete it there in the app, beep, beep, beep. And then you are getting rewards for the data that you're producing, which is like a really awesome thing because it's not just providing your data and
Yeah, it's
they
a
using
step
it, they don't
to
get absolutely
data
anything.
sovereignty.
Exactly. So that's a really interesting use case. And this is only one, but like imagine like you just like do or like replicate these use cases or like this solution for other use cases. That's a really awesome
Yeah.
application, I guess. Like you just like have a win-win situation for everyone, for the government, from the market, from the individual. So that's one of the projects that like is developing a solution with the government, which I think is really awesome to showcase the potential. They do not work with the IOTA token technically. This is like more like data transactions and actually like the transfer of the data in a secure and transparent way. But like you can also connect that like later on with tokens if you want to give the rewards in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of something we have in Switzerland, but without like the blockchain part and the whole survey thing. Like there is So I live near Lake Geneva, and in Lake Geneva there's been an association or a consortium of people because it borders on France as well. And basically there's like a local currency that's called like Lake Geneva currency. And basically you can exchange it around the lake to have like a circular economy and to foster like the regional stuff. But it would be really good to like implement it at the national level or something, because that might actually get some interesting results as well.
There is like different use cases like that. There's one, but it's not like a local currency, but it actually is just, it's interesting because it uses actually the token, but I think that they're doing it with Binance and an organization in Uganda called AfriPads. Okay. And the name is Pink Token. I will give you the name later. I'm
no problem.
Name, sorry. But basically what they do is that people donate on tokens, and these tokens are then burned into a color token, which is pink. I think the name is Pink Token. And then these are distributed to certain women in municipalities in Uganda. Okay. And then the women can then change these tokens in particular stores, or like certain stores that are part of the project, for sanitary products for the women. So this is really interesting for the donors' perspective, because they can see how many products the women are exchanging, and how many women are actually like accessing or getting access to these products via the donation that they have. So this is really cool for like donation transparency, and I think that this is one of the use cases that can be replicated in other areas to actually promote donations for the projects. Talking about donations, we did a really interesting project. We didn't do it. Sooniverse did it, and we supported. I fell in love with the project when I heard about it. So it was really cool because we just support with whenever we can, but it was implemented by them. The Sooniverse is a really cool community member that we have. Really recommended to check it out. And they have a platform, and one of the things that they do is NFTs. Okay. So they reach out to us and say like, we want to create some NFT collections, but we want the funds of these NFTs to go to NGOs in Ukraine working on humanitarian cases right now. So what we did was just like doing like the research of the NGOs to see that they were legit, that they were like registered there. And then we did a whole process with them of actually they creating their first wallet. One of them already had like some experience with crypto donations, so it was easy for them. But with the other NGO, we just like actually went step by step for like how to create the wallet. I remember they calling me and saying like, we reset the computer, so we lost our key. Can you just like send it back? And I was like, this is not how it works. Like have a talk. But like this is really interesting because these are honest questions that like people that is not on the sector, well, you think like it's your PayPal account. You lose your account, you send an email, they will send you the access again, right? So how we did the whole process with them and explain them like you need to be more careful with the passwords and the keys. You just need to have everything put it on paper on your pocket, or like have external wallet. So we did the whole process with them, and then we managed to work with like over 20 artists worldwide that donated in total more than 400 pieces. Okay. And then all the donations are like the collection is still open, and we are still like, well, they're still like offering the NFTs, and there is a campaign for like people to actually buy the NFTs, and the donation goes directly to the wallet of the NGO. So we are not custodians, they're not custodians, it just like go directly to them, and then they will decide what to do, exchange it for fiat money, and then accessing like the supplies they need to actually like support the actions that they are doing. And the royalties were established also like 90% goes back to the NGOs. So you have the 10% to incentivate the sellings, and then the rest goes to the NGOs. So they're like really cool use cases as well there.
Awesome.
So yeah, I think that's the fun of like working on social impact, that you actually see these kind of projects and the impact there. So you just get like more excited and want to do more.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. I can see in her eyes that when she's talking about these things, that the eyes
they light up.
Going out, exactly. You really like enjoy doing these, I can tell.
I really like it.
Really.
Yeah, I don't know, I couldn't do something else. Like I always work in like things that I really believe. Like I start working on child protection, I work on restorative justice. I think my first job as a lawyer was actually with the transitional court here, supporting the research that the court was doing to implement international law into the cases here. So I always been into social impact and human rights. So it's really good to finally find that merge between technology, which I really believe has the power to push forward what we're doing faster.
Yeah. Awesome.
Nice.
Channing, do you have questions?
I don't have any questions at the moment.
All right. Then it's a question that we ask all the guests.
Oops. Okay.
Do you have tips and tricks or best practices for the audience regarding your use of blockchain technology and stuff like that?
I guess that like I already talk about that, but like yeah, the first one is just to be curious, because there's a lot of information out there, and it's not taking everything by granted, but actually like take a look of what is the technology behind, what is the people behind, what is like actually their vision, do they really stand for what they're saying?
Yeah.
Those things are really important because it shows like coherence between the project and their vision and the use cases. So for me, that's really important. I think that was one of the reasons that I'm with IOTA, because it has always been like we have like back and forth with the strategy, but it always goes in this direction of digital autonomy for everyone, which I really believe is the good path.
Yeah.
And I guess the other one will be like actually to just like try to stay in the bright side, like this is the way, like the Mandalorians. But actually just like take a look of like those good use cases that are out there. Because there's like really cool things going on, especially in the climate applications as well. We didn't have the time to talk about that, but like it's not just the NFTs. There are art pieces and that are like mostly what people know, but actually like there are NFTs right now that are being using from the carbon credits and what comes with all of that about like the avoiding double counting and the transparency to actually enhance the climate application. So I guess that is not starting with like one thing that is what is out there, but actually like go a little bit beyond and see what is the potential of the technology there. And of course, if it's for people like trying to create a project, it's just like really check it out. What is the technology that will make the project actually be feasible?
Yeah.
And as well as like try to just like cooperate with others. Like I hate reinventing the wheel. I just like hate to just like see people working on silos, and it's just like you're like wasting so much resources in something that was already created here. Why are you not talking to them and actually just like joining forces to do something better? So I guess that like doing a really good like a scope of what is out there. Actually, I just remember we did that like within ACPA. That was one of the challenges that we saw, that like projects didn't know how to do impact assessments. And you know, like if you're a small or medium-sized project, you don't need to do it because you are not forced to comply, but there is a moment that you will be. Like if you grow, you will be complying with this. So we were working this year really hard in like trying to understand or like bringing a solution to small projects of what were the steps that they need to consider since the beginning. And we create a model for social impact projects, or for projects actually trying to generate any kind of impact, that are simple steps, that doesn't require any knowledge on impact assessment and doesn't require any resources in terms of like hiring external consultants to do this for you, but actually like a series of steps for like what to do during the ideation, implementation, and evaluation of the project. So one of them is just like check it out the stakeholders, like who is out there that can help you create a baseline so you understand where you are and where you want to go, so you can showcase your impact. And it's a series of steps that I'm also like happy to share the link because we just publish it. And this is really useful for the projects to actually like understand what are the small things that they can do since the beginning to be able to prove their impact, not only to be compliant later on, but also to bring investors or stakeholders that would be interested in the project, just because they can showcase the impact that they are creating.
Okay, awesome. I have my final question, but I want to give Channing the chance. Do you have a final question for a guest?
Yeah, well, I don't have any questions, but then there's one point that you pointed out that I really like to re-stress, because we'll talk about energy uses and everything, and I just realized that there are like even if some of the blockchains are using a lot of energy, and then if we compare it to the right things, it's it's doing a lot of good stuff rather than the bad stuff, right? And then it reminds me of an example that I've overheard from the video I was listening to. So the guy said, if you want to, like, it's totally okay to be vegan, but then or vegetarian, but then you need to know where you're coming from. But if you think that you being a vegan or vegetarian can make the earth a better place, it's helping the planet. It's not really, because if you're living in Canada, what you should do to do the best thing to the earth is not eating avocados, because transportation is causing, I don't know, 80% of the pollution that we're using today these days. So it really depends on what kind of things you're doing, rather than like it's always dig into the bottom of the thing. And then the another thing I want to retouch on is the first thing you said about there are so much information on the internet. We don't even know what to look for. And then I think that's the beauty of the blockchain technology, which is transparency, because as we always say, don't trust, verify. And being on things on blockchain that enables us to check everything, check every transaction, to verify it's actually there. The transaction has to be made. If the valid transaction or not. So these kind of things are really, I think, is going to change a lot of our lives in the future. And whether or not we like it or not, it is going to happen. So that's why I'm always, even in the bear market, we're still doing all this kind of thing, because we believe that the technology is there, is going to happen regardless how much Bitcoin, how much dollars per Bitcoin is. So
Yeah,
that's the things I want to talk about.
I agree with you. Regarding the vegans, like there's like also so many things why they're doing it. Like there's like many reasons behind. It can be because of sustainability, but it can also be like animal protection. So I don't want to go in that direction. But
Yeah,
like it's not easy to say like it's this or that. It's just like there's a whole thing behind that. And what I want, or the point that I want to do with this is that like there's not a magic solution for absolutely everything, right? So
Yeah.
you need to take a look of the context. So this you mentioned Canada. So if I want to protect the environment and these are my intentions, what are the best actions that I
yeah,
can take? But like if there is a secondary intention there, like how we can just like kind of like navigate all this spectrum, because at the end we are individuals, right? And we have like secondary agenda that goes with our own mindset and direction that we want to go. So I think that that's one of the things that we always need to consider there when we are implementing projects, especially the social impact projects. And is that we are talking about people. So behind all those numbers, there is people there,
Yeah.
and we need to see how we are going to
mhm,
impact them. But also it's just like there's not a magic recipe. For example, if you do rice, like in Bogota or to Medellin, where I'm right now, it's going to be completely different because the altitude is different. So it won't work in the same way. So how we adjust, there wasn't a stupid example, but it's the example that like one of my colleagues when I was working in humanitarian settings used to do, and I don't know, put it stuck in my head. But it's true. You need to know what is the context there. What is the conditions of the people there, like the environment conditions there, like the economic, social-cultural, the governmental institutions, how they are working in certain area to actually come with a solution that will address the challenges that they are faced, or will actually like work on their favor instead of just like actually create damages.
Yeah.
And I think that that's very important. Your example of the avocado is exactly like that. How we need to really like do a baseline of what is out there, what do we want to do, and then how we interact. And now, on regards to your comment of the bear market, I think that yeah, you're right, but I don't think the bear market is actually like that bad. For one thing, it actually helps us to clean the space because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot
yeah,
of things out there that are just creating noise and distraction. And the real like foundations and protocols that are doing a really heavy work on creating a good technology, a technology that is going to be reliable, that has the potential to generate this impact, they already survive like many bear markets, and they're going to stay there for like really long time, just because what they're doing is actually, it has like some fundamental behind, which is how I
mhm,
see it. And this is not a like saying like the bear market is good. Like it's like no one thinks the bear market is good and the consequences
No,
are horrible.
definitely.
But what I said, that is always like there's always a bright side, as I said.
Yeah.
Like, there is always good and bad. And the good thing is that like it will help us to actually clean the space for like also like some shady players that are out there, and leave like actually the good projects out there. And those projects are gonna become or like gonna leave the bear market being stronger. As
Yeah.
I said.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally agree. And
Yeah.
so my final question as we are nearing the end of the year and the show is twofold again because I like two-sided questions. So what is a hard lesson for you of 2022 and what are you looking forward for 2023?
Hard lessons in 2022. There was like so much going on
Oh
in the
yeah,
couple
but you have to pick
months.
one. That's the thing.
I will just say that like well, at the end, like lessons like help us to understand something at the end. And I think that the lesson of 2022 is that we actually like need to work harder on DeFi, because DeFi will help us to prevent some of the issues that happen this year. So I guess that like for 2023, we will actually like, I'm looking forward to see what is going to happen in the space, especially on DeFi. And I'm really curious to see what we are going to define as DeFi, right? Because like, it's a matter of governance, it's actually the technology behind what is this decentralization level that
Yeah.
we want to put there. And I guess that that's what I'm looking forward in 2023. There's a lot of going on at the regulatory level. We have MiCAR, but like MiCAR is a set of general principles. So what is going to have with like the second level legislation? What is going to be the ESG requirements for the white papers? I'm really curious about that. So yeah, I think that there are cool things coming on 2023 on that side.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much for your time. It
Nice.
was a lovely interview. Thank you very much, the audience. Like Channing, you've made such an impression on the audience.
Thank you, thank you.
And so this is us. This is us bidding goodbye and stay safe out there.